Hello, we ghosties. I'm Chance Lee,
And I'm Amanda McAvoy.
and this is That's So Gothic, a movie podcast about girls, guys, and haunted houses. We love being seduced by a man in uniform, so come join us as we become one of the Beguiled.
Oh my god!
A refuge or a hell, as Clint Eastwood, wounded Yankee, is brought to an all-girls school to become the prisoner of these man-deprived women, these man-eager girls.
You must be tired. Wouldn't you like a chance to go to your closet? I might sponge parts of him. You wouldn't.
You are not our guest. If you get any ideas of trying to amuse yourself with any of the ladies in this house,
wait
you'll
just a
find
minute.
yourself out on that road so fast you won't know what happened to you.
Consider the possibilities. Is he a helpless victim to be threatened, teased, enticed, loved at their will and pleasure?
What do you want?
I love you.
Or is he a man, aggressive, wooing, demanding, who must love to stay alive?
I want to take your brother's place, but I must warn you, it won't always be easy to act like a brother.
Hold it, Yank! Clint Eastwood, man, the symbol, the sexual enemy.
I'm gonna have the run of this place. One is I'm gonna be with any young lady that desires my company.
Geraldine Page, possessive, vindictive.
Just because I didn't go to your bed.
Elizabeth Hartman, her passion latent and violent.
You lying, filthy lecher! I hope you're dead!
The tensions, the jealousies, the conflicts of sexual confrontations, rare even for today.
Released in 1971, The Beguiled was directed by Don Siegel. It stars Clint Eastwood as John McBurney, a Union soldier, Geraldine Page as Miss Martha, the headmistress of a Mississippi school for ladies, Elizabeth Hartman as Edwina, a school teacher, Pamela Ferdin as Amy, the youngest student, and Joanne Harris as Carol, the slut. I loved Carol the slut.
I did too. I wasn't expecting you to introduce her like that, but yes, she is so hot and bothered in this movie.
She breathed so much life into this movie. She
Yeah,
gave
she
me life. I love Carol so much.
She's so good.
So, this is the story of a wounded Union soldier being nursed to health at a girls' school in the Confederate South, and all the women get horny for him. So this movie was written by Albert Maltz and Irene Camp. Both of them were credited under pseudonyms, and it was based on the novel of the same name by Thomas P. Cullinan. So Don Siegel, the director, worked with Clint Eastwood a lot. Do you have a relationship with Clint Eastwood?
I'm pretty sure this is my first Clint Eastwood movie.
I, as a kid, used to get Clint Eastwood and Robert Redford confused because they were both older white men from like the same era.
Yeah, kind of westerny.
Yes. And so, but they're different. And I think very politically different too. Wasn't Clint Eastwood the one that like talked to a chair at like a Republican national convention?
I know he's done like advertisements for the NRA and stuff. So
Oh yeah, NRA.
yeah.
So
Big
so he did
guy.
a lot of westerns,
Mhm.
and Don Siegel also did Dirty Harry. with
Mhm.
Clint Eastwood, which I've never seen.
Mm-mm.
And I think he directed Million Dollar Baby
Oh,
with Hilary
really?
Swank.
Oh, that's quite a
So
long career then.
he really kicked around. Yeah, he did Million Dollar Baby. He's been acting and directing up until 2021 was his last movie, Crime
Wow.
Macho, which I never saw.
No, me neither.
My favorite movie of his when I was a kid was called A Perfect World.
Hmm.
It has he directed it, which I didn't realize. He's also in it, but it stars Kevin Costner, who my mom thought was such a babe. And he plays this man who's escaped from prison. And as his cover, he kidnaps this young boy. But the boy was in this kind of abusive household. So it's almost like he's rescued this kid and he becomes this surrogate father figure that this kid never had. And they actually start to grow quite close together. And it's very
Oh,
sweet in this
that's
father son
cute.
relationship. And Clint Eastwood is the FBI agent pursuing him across the country as he's fleeing.
Yeah.
And Laura Dern is also an FBI agent.
Oh,
And they're in this big camper, like their mobile headquarters is in a camper. It's
yeah.
one of many movies that I saw as a child that make me want to live in a camper.
That sounds lovely. I've never
Yeah.
heard of that. Yeah.
Great movie, great Clint Eastwood movie. Highly
Hmm.
recommend. But other than that, yeah, he's not someone that I'm like, ooh, Clint,
Yeah.
what's he up to?
Right.
So the writing behind this movie was very interesting, I thought. So yeah, written by Albert Maltz and Irene Camp, but they're credited as John B. Sherry and Grimes Grace.
Ooh. Grimes shout out.
So yeah, Grimes, yes, that's who she was named after. So according to this, so there was Albert Maltz wrote the original script, but then it got revised by one of the producers. And so they say that's why Maltz was credited under a pseudonym. But Maltz was blacklisted in 1947 during the whole Hollywood Un-American Act,
Yeah.
all the communism stuff. And he used this pseudonym a few times, which made me wonder if he actually was using this pseudonym because he was blacklisted. He didn't get like unblacklisted until like posthumously when
Wow.
they went through and like kind of cleared people's names.
Huh.
So I couldn't find that much information about that, but it said that he originally wrote a script with a happy ending in which Eastwood's character and the girl live happily ever after. I want to know which girl, first of all.
I know, right? Yeah.
But they thought that that ending it says both Eastwood and director Don Siegel felt that an ending faithful to that of the book. Oh, I see. Would be a stronger anti-war sentiment. So I guess the book is more similar to the movie.
Okay.
And then I'm going to actually come back to this later with what Siegel thinks the movie is really about, because I think that will be an interesting conversation point. So the Grimes Grace, Irene Camp. So in her obituary in 1975, it says that she used the Grimes Grace pseudonym when she was unhappy with the product of a collaboration.
Oh,
So
good for her. That's such a smart idea.
yeah, so I don't know what her contribution was. I don't know why she was unhappy.
Yeah.
So that remains a mystery.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
sad she
So
died. I want to ask her.
I know. She didn't do none of the other movies she did I had ever heard of.
Really interesting.
So this movie was number 25 in the top grossing films of 1971. Another Clint Eastwood film was on the list, which was Play Misty for me. That one's
Never
good
heard of
too.
it.
I guess I've seen more Clint Eastwood films than I thought.
Yeah.
He actually not. I mean, it is different from this, but he plays a radio DJ, and with the woman from Lucille Bluth from Arrested Development.
Oh, yes, I know.
You know
who
who
you're
I'm talking about? Jessica Walter.
Yes.
Jessica Walter is this stalker that loves listening to him on the radio and stalks him.
Oh,
Great movie. Great
that
movie.
sounds awesome.
So other films from 1971, A Clockwork Orange,
Wow.
Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory,
Oh.
Billy Jack.
Oh, that one
You
I
know
do
that?
think I've seen. That is one of my dad's favorites.
What? Okay, this was the number one grossing movie of 1971. I've never heard of it.
That's so funny. Yeah, I only have like a very vague memory of it in the back of my head. I can see the VHS cover in my mind's eye. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was one of my dad's favorites. It's, westerny, right? Yeah.
It
Yeah.
looks like that.
Yeah. Yep. There it is.
Wow. Oh, even this poster says the most unusual box office success of all time.
Huh. I kind of want to watch it now as an adult.
Now
I'm sure I didn't
I
appreciate it.
know. My interest
Billy
is piqued.
Yeah, writing a note to myself. Watch Billy Jack. Oh, ooh, maybe I'll watch it with my dad and we'll get a if
Get
it's
a
gothic
soundbite.
enough. Yeah, get a Brian
We'll
McAvoy
have a
collab.
We'll have a Western spinoff.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
That's so gothic, y'all. And the movie that had the best title, which I've also never heard of, is called Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song.
That's a whole movie title?
That's the whole movie title, and Badass has 5 S's at the end. Looks
That's
great.
so good.
I want to watch that one. It's about a male prostitute who, I don't know, goes on some sort of adventure.
Yeah. That sounds lovely.
Right? So I didn't find any contemporary reviews from the time, but for some reason, Richard Brody for the New Yorker wrote about this movie 30 years later. And he said that the story burrows deep into the characters' lust-crazed psyches. And he says it may sometimes come off as a ribald soldier's tale that Siegel, born in 1912, had been awaiting a sexual revolution to tell. But still, his intense, intelligent breakdown of the film's wild outbursts reveals subtleties of love, despair, and shame beneath the schematic luridness. Great review.
That's a good one. A lot of descriptive words.
That's why he writes for the New Yorker, right?
Yeah.
He gets paid per $20 word. And I had never heard of this movie until it was remade in 2017 by Sophia Coppola. The remake starred Nicole Kidman, Kirsten Dunst. So Nicole Kidman was the headmistress. Kirsten Dunst was the teacher. Elle Fanning was the Carol equivalent. They gave her a different name.
Yeah.
And Elle Fanning can't play hussy the same way that the actress in this movie could, Joanne Harris. And then Colin Farrell played the Clint Eastwood part. And there were absolutely no Black people.
I think they introduced the Black, she's not a slave, but she's like their housekeeper briefly at the beginning. And then she never comes back. Not like the character in the original.
Really? Oh yeah. I mean, I missed her. So
maybe I'm imagining it, but I feel like I remember seeing her in the the opening scene. Well, not the opening scene, but when he kind of shows up at the house.
Yeah, here I am. I'm criticizing Sophia Coppola, but I neglected to mention Mae Mercer, who plays Hallie, who is one of my favorite characters from the Beguiled. She's their housekeeper / slave.
Awesome.
And
yeah.
She's great. She has one of the most interesting stories. But I hated this movie. I hated the remake. Hated it.
Yeah. I thought it was boring. I didn't connect with the characters as much as I did with the original. And I feel like the tone of it was really strange. Like the way the story was handled was incredibly odd to me. So yeah, I wouldn't say I would like passionately hate it, but definitely not a winner for me.
Yeah, I've never. How do you feel about Sophia Coppola in general?
I don't think I know. I've watched Marie Antoinette. Is that the name of the movie? Marie Antoinette? Yeah. I know I watched that when I was like a teenager and heavily in the throes of a Marie Antoinette obsession. And I hated it because I thought it wasn't historically accurate, but that's like what it was supposed to be.
Right.
So I know I watched that. I don't think I've seen any other movies by her. I feel like I would like her aesthetic if I watched more. It's just something I never got around to. I would like to watch Marie Antoinette again.
That one's fun, visually appealing. Also with
Hmm.
Kirsten Dunst, frequent
Hmm.
collaborator. That one does have really nice costumes and music.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
Beguiled does not have particularly nice costumes, and they're in the
No.
dark all the time.
Oh my God. Pitch black.
You can't see a thing. They're always carrying the tiniest candle. And like it's hard to see. And yeah, the word I always use to describe a Sophia Coppola film is inert. Just like
Mm,
nothing happens. I don't know what it
yeah.
is about her where she just like most cynically just like sucks the life out of everything, but she has this
Yeah.
very objective style, whereas Don Siegel has this very dated theatrical style where sometimes
Yeah.
the characters' voiceovers will play as they're just like kind of staring off into
Yeah.
space and
And
stuff.
I adored that.
I did too.
It
And
felt
like
so like old school, like to me. It felt like an older, like, I don't know. I just adored that so much.
this film seems very old school in its craft
Hmm.
and very for the time modern to me anyway in its thinking, which
Yeah.
I appreciated. And I love the melodrama of the 70s one.
Yeah. Interesting take that I found out about the Sophia Coppola one, at least according to IMDb, is that it was filmed in Jennifer Coolidge's house.
What?
Jennifer Coolidge lives
What?
there. Which, like,
What?
how do you also make
Does
Jennifer
she
Coolidge's house so dark?
does she have lights?
Yeah, no, Jennifer Coolidge lives in the dark. I like to imagine her as like our ultimate gothic dark heroine. She just lives because I think it's in the South. Like I don't think it's, and that's another thing we could talk
Okay.
about is Sophia Coppola moves the movie to Virginia. I don't
Why?
think the actual house though is even in Virginia. I think it's more southern. So yeah,
Wow.
just Jennifer Coolidge just putting around
They
wherever
really should
she
have
is.
they really should have put her in the movie.
Oh my God, they should have made her the headmistress. That would have made the movie so good.
And they could have recreated that TikTok where the camera just kind of pans up her body and then she just goes, "Hi."
Hi.
Kirsten Dunst could have held the candle and just like, slowly brought it up and then she goes, "Hi."
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't believe that. Yeah, look at this. She's in New Orleans, her New
Yeah.
Orleans home.
Right.
That
Yeah.
is
So
incredible.
again, why did they even move the location in the movie?
Right, they're much closer to Mississippi. Very strange, lots of
Yeah.
bad choices. And if this is in the 1971 movie, apologies to Sofia Coppola, but there's a scene in The Beguiled, the remake, where one of the students says to another one about the wounded war guy, "I heard he was a mercenary." And I think, who the fuck did you hear this from? You don't see anyone else outside of this
Yeah.
house. Who did you
Right.
hear it from? The girl across the table from you? Like, just like just like the choices she made. If that's not
Yeah.
in the script, why is that in the script? Because it makes no sense. We
Right.
never see them interact with anyone outside the house, except when
Yes.
like the soldiers are coming in and kind of threatening them.
Yeah. And it also, like, that's what's so good about the 70s movie is it's so like claustrophobic and so isolated and contained.
Yes. It makes the drama so much more dramatic.
Yes. Yes, it
Yeah.
does.
So let's get into our plot summary.
Mhm.
So we begin with a close-up of Abraham Lincoln and some sepia-toned Civil War photos. We see a young pigtailed girl named Amelia. They call her Amy throughout the
Mhm.
movie. She's gathering mushrooms, and then in this Wizard of Oz sort of way, it changes into color as she finds the wounded Northern soldier.
Mhm.
It's very dramatic with the editing and the music. There's all these flourishes of music.
Yeah. And he
And
looks messed up. Like he looks scary. It frightens me.
yeah, he's like half in a bush and
Yeah. It's all bloody.
oh yeah. And we meet him as Corporal John McBurney, played by Clint Eastwood. They call him McB. And she says to him that her daddy died the same way. He crawled off in the bushes and bled to death. Maybe you were the cause. And she kind of carries him out of like, because there's battle, there's soldiers nearby. So she kind of helps him sneak away. And he says to her, "How old are you?" And she says 12. And he says, "Old enough for kisses," and kisses her.
I out loud went, "No, she is not."
So shocking. I feel like even for the time, like, oh my God. Well, I guess like, I mean, Civil War time, no, but 1970s, you're like, what is happening here?
It's icky.
So Amy brings this man back to the Miss Martha Farnsworth Seminary for Young Ladies, which is such a great school name.
So Southern sounding.
Rural Mississippi.
Yep.
And the women are not happy that Amy has brought this Yankee into their school.
Blue bellies?
Is that what they call? Oh, because they're jackets.
Yeah, I think it's blue belly.
That makes sense, because I remember in our last episode, I didn't remember who was blue and who was gray. So now I know.
Now we know.
And we get some foreshadowing where Miss Martha says, "If this war goes on much longer, I'll forget I even was a woman."
I love that. And that was in her internal dialogue, I think, actually.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So it does do that, where she's just kind of looking off into space, and then the actress narrates over the screen.
Which, again, I love. I adore it.
So we get some symbolism with this crow. There's this crow that gets kind of stuck in like a balcony. Maybe it flew into the window or something, and it's not dead, but it's wounded. And so Amy ties up the crow so he won't fly away until he gets better. So we'll revisit that near the end of the movie. So the ladies remove the shrapnel and dress his leg, and they dress him in Miss Martha's dead brother's clothing. So they all start talking about him a little bit. Edwina is the virginal school teacher. She's the oldest that's not Miss Martha. She is very humanizing and understanding of him. And Amy says, "I call him Mr. McBee, and I think he's ever so handsome." And then when the clothes fit, they say to Miss Martha that he's not made no different than your brother. And then we start getting this flashback. We get these flashbacks and learn that Miss Martha and her own brother were having this incestuous relationship.
Yeah. And it's an interesting plot point in the grand scheme of things, but they really don't. I mean, it's a secondary plot point for sure, so they really don't go into it so much. So it's very jarring.
It is, yeah. I wasn't expecting that, because if Nicole Kidman had the hots for her brother in the remake, they did not mention that.
No. Yeah. They cut that out completely.
Yeah. So McBee starts kind of playing all of the women. So he starts with Hallie as well, who's the black slave / housekeeper. He says that they should be friends as they're both prisoners in this house. And she says, "We're different, Mr. Yank. I could run." Just a really good line. She has some of the best lines in the movie. So let's see. So Martha, there's some scenes where Martha offers to make Edwina a partner in the school. And we see Amy, she has a pet turtle that she's saying goodnight to. And we see Carol the hussy. She's watching Edwina bathe McBee. And she makes this comment about how she could sponge him down. And Edwina slaps her and says, "A hussy is a hussy."
Yeah, she's not subtle.
Oh, she's not. She's so over the top. I love it. So Edwina, so we're learning, so basically what we're going to have is these three women who are lusting after him in different ways. Miss Martha is seeing him as her brother. Edwina, she's seeing him as her husband. And then Carol is just horny.
Yeah. And then there's kind of Amy a little bit too, because she develops feelings for him.
Right. She has this
She's a
like
child.
adolescent crush. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And that ends up being almost one of the more pivotal ones as we get
Hmm.
near the end of the movie.
Yeah.
So he continues to flirt with her even though she's 12.
Yeah.
So Amy watches them through like the window and stuff, and she comes in and she says, I told Randolph all about you. And we'll later learn that Randolph is her turtle.
Yeah.
And there's another woman who, what is her name? There's another person. Oh, I've got to find her. Doris. They only mentioned Doris a couple of times, but I really liked Doris as well, because Doris is always talking about treason and how it's treason that they're keeping him in the house.
Hmm.
And so they're all, all the infighting is starting to begin here as we're moving along. So the movie also does this interesting thing where he will flat out lie to them, and the cinematics show what really happened.
Yeah, which again, I love. I don't know if it's just because I'm a simple girl and I don't want to think about a movie too much all the time. I love having, like, I don't want to infer. Don't make me infer. I don't. It's not what I signed up for, So I actually love the way that they did it.
It's such a cool trick. Like, I really liked that too. So he's saying that he's a Quaker and he was trying to help the rebel soldiers, and he got injured while he was saving one.
Yeah.
While he's telling this sob story, we see him up in the tree just like sniping them off.
Yep. Yeah. Just being a dickhead.
And I love that because we only, up until the end, we see him as this very like nice guy.
Yeah.
Almost using the term nice guy in the 21st century way, where he's just being nice to get into their pants and get something out of it. But he is like a quintessential nice guy.
Yeah.
So Miss Martha, though, she hasn't quite, hopped on the brother train with him. Mm-hmm. And she says they could give him some wine. And he's like, oh, thank you. And she goes, it was offered for your pain, not your pleasure.
Yeah.
And then he, of course, says sometimes the two go together.
Oh,
some
he's a
witty repartee.
Very slippery kind of guy.
Yes. And so when Carol finally gets to meet him face to face, she just kisses him. This hussy.
He's asleep. He's like passed out, and he wakes up.
Oh,
yeah.
There she is.
It's just Carol. Just.
Oh man, and yeah. She says she's 17.
Yeah.
But she knows a lot more than girls her age.
Carol. She is so saucy. And she's
great.
Also beautiful. That actress is beautiful. I guess actually her and what's his face? Clint Eastwood actually dated or had an affair or something. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. She's a beautiful lady. Yeah.
She is very pretty. Yeah. She's great.
Yep.
So Amy introduces him to the turtle. And Hallie is out in the barn. She's milking the cow. And she sings this song. If living were something money could buy, the rich would live and the poor would die.
Queen.
Still relevant today.
Bars.
My
Absolute
God,
bars.
I know. That's a jam. So Carol is complaining about how the farm work is ruining her hands.
Yeah.
And Hallie says, well, that work is what feeds us. And if you don't get enough, you'll go where you can play the harp all day. And then Miss Martha orders Hallie shave McBee.
Mm-hmm.
And which is the worst decision they can make. I don't think Clint Eastwood is particularly handsome, but I liked him with the beard. And after that, I was just like, I don't see it anymore.
See, I actually think he's pretty foxy. And the whole time I was watching the movie, I was like, it is such a shame that he is a piece of shit. Because I personally thought he was pretty hunky in this movie.
Oh, I love that for you.
Yeah.
He's just there.
He's no Alden.
He's no. I mean, who is? If Sophia Coppola had put Alden Ehrenreich instead of Colin Farrell,
oh my God,
I would have been climbing through the screen to lust after him.
Totally different review.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So yeah, she orders Hallie to shave him, which is a bad idea. And Hallie says, Lord gave men whiskers. It's a sin to shave you. And he says, sinning should be saved for more important things.
Ooh.
I love how he just turns everything into like a horny comeback.
Yeah.
And then Hallie says, Miss Martha give me my orders, not the Lord. It's great. So let's see. So Amy ends up giving McBee crutches. So he's able to now get out of, he's been kind of prisoner in this bedroom for a while. So he's able to limp around. And even though it's the Civil War, Clint Eastwood has this kind of like feathered 70s hair. Like,
It's like perfectly coiffed.
yes, it's like Hallie shaved him and gave him a blowout too. Like, I don't know how she did that with no electricity. So, this movie's full of good lines. So Edwina is teaching the women how to use a napkin. And she's reading from this like book of etiquette. And it says, men who wear a mustache are obliged to manipulate a napkin in a vigorous manner, which would be unpardonable in a lady. We are not a video podcast, but I wear quite the mustache. So I need to start saying that I'm obliged to manipulate a mannequin. I keep saying mannequin. Manipulate a napkin in a vigorous manner.
In a vigorous manner. Next time we go out to eat, can he please get some extra napkins? He needs to manipulate them.
In a vigorous manner. It's true.
Oh my God.
And so the girls are like, and then Edwin is like, please demonstrate how to use a napkin. And the girls are like daintily dabbing at themselves with little corners. Meanwhile, Carol like pops open a couple buttons and she goes out to.
She's like, I need to go to my closet with her just tits out.
Oh, boom, boom. So she goes out to this gazebo where McBee is playing solitaire. And she says, games for two are more fun.
She's so wild.
Oh my God. And so they're getting pretty hot and heavy. And Edwina interrupts them though. And so Carol leaves, but she ends up sneaking back and she sees the two of them kissing. So there's some jealousy that's starting to ferment in the air. So she decides. So one of the things that they talk about is how they're going to nurse him until he gets better. And then they're going to turn him over to the Confederate soldiers. Yeah. And they'll let their men know he's there by tying a blue ribbon to the gate. And so Carol, jealous, runs down to the gate and ties that blue ribbon.
I love it.
It's so good.
Petty
and so I know, right? Like she's just going to sell this man basically to a death sentence because he kissed another woman. I love it. So she ties that and the men show up. These men show up to take McBee, but Miss Martha says that he's her cousin and kind of talks them out of it, which is interesting because she was one of the ones besides Doris who wanted him out of this house.
Yeah.
So, so they invite McBee that night to eat at the dinner table. We learn, quote, he's particularly partial to mushrooms, which will come up again later. And then they start talking about the other soldiers and stuff that came by. These men show up and it's very tense because you're trying to figure out, I think these are different soldiers, right?
I would imagine so. Yeah.
I think this is the scene where these two men come in and they're trying to get Miss Martha to let them stay because they need protectors, but they're very rapey in their intentions, it feels like. Yeah,
they're like really insinuate, like they bring up the young girls, like, they're not safe here. We'll put some of our best men on it. No, you absolutely are not. Like, it's very, very creepy.
Yeah, and Miss Martha totally stands up to them and gets them out of the house.
She does a great job because I would not. I am so bad at confrontation. She is so good at it. She's just like,
she's fantastic.
Nope. Yep.
Really good at shutting it down and not escalating the tension of the situation.
Yeah, she's incredible.
she's great. And then they kind of talk about these soldiers who are probably going to rape and maybe kill them. Doris says, it's treason to talk about our boys this way. And someone says, Doris, you think everything is treason?
Well, how snarky these girls are.
They're great. I mean, the dialogue is really exceptional.
Yeah.
I like to think that it was our Grimes Grace there that wrote the ladies' dialogue because it's so snappy. So Miss Martha invites McBee for wine this time, like for real, not just to kind of be mean to him after and say this is just for your pain. So she asks him to stay and help manage the farm as they kind of recover. They end up making out a bit, and he says to her, it won't always be easy to act like a brother. And so you're getting a little and it's hard to tell what he knows at this point. I don't think he knows anything yet, but he will find out.
Yes.
So that night, Miss Martha has this dream, and she dreams that she's in bed with him and Edwina, and they're kind of doing this live reenactment of this painting that's in the house. I had to look up what this painting was. It's Botticelli's Lamentation over the Dead Christ.
Yeah. I took a Italian? Yeah, an Italian. No, a Spanish, like Spain and Europe, art history class. And Botticelli, I think, is Italian, but that sort of scene is painted quite a bit in Spanish paintings too. So I knew that that dead dude was Jesus, but I did not know it was Botticelli. So that's good to know. Yeah. But usually it's Jesus dead, and then it's Mary Magdalene and Mary his mother, the two women. So that's interesting.
You'd think Carol would be more of a Mary Magdalene figure.
Yeah, oh definitely. But I'm assuming at this point Martha doesn't really know that he's getting close to Carol. I don't think,
true.
Right?
No, that's true. She wouldn't know. I don't think she's suspected that yet.
Yeah. So
that's a good point.
Yeah, I do like that scene though. And again, I think something that's missing from Sophia Coppola's. I don't think
she never put a dream sequence in a movie, I don't think.
Yeah. And fades into a painting.
Yeah. I really liked it. So at this point I don't know how it came into my mind, but I started thinking of I think it's from like Wiccan mythology, but the mother, the maiden, and the crone, the three women. And thinking about with Miss Martha obviously being the crone. And then it kind of fell apart a bit because like, who do you see Edwina as? Because she's like very virginal. So maybe she's the maid, but she also mothers the girls. So is she the mother? And then Carol's definitely no maiden. You know, she's she's young, but she's no maiden. But I was reading a bit about that and their counterpart, which is like the horned devil or something. And I was like, we are kind of getting these three different female archetypes. Amy could be slotted in as the maiden, though.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And then we leave Carol out of it. Just she's just too much for all of us to bear. Too much.
There is no equivalent to Carol anywhere.
No, I love Carol. Like I think it's really funny that they changed her name in the remake.
Yeah.
Because we can't even have another Carol. Like she's done it.
Yes.
She's done it all.
Right. Carol also doesn't even to me sound like a Civil War era name. So
that's why they changed it too. I know. So like my right. Yes. So we're getting to the big climax of the movie because he does end up in Carol's bed and Edwina catches him with Carol and he comes out of the bedroom.
Oh no, I was gonna say the shot where she sees him, the camera goes like basically through Carol's crack. Like her butt is in the air.
I didn't even notice that.
It's so good. Like I was only kind of like, and I'll get into it maybe later, but like this movie is kind of like for me, but like it's still very good. But I think up until this point I was kind of like not entirely sold on it, and then the camera, it's like zooms in on his face, but the route the camera takes is Carol must be on top and her
She's on
butt
top,
is her butt is in the air, and I don't even think you see the rest of her body. I think it's just butt, and the camera goes like that, zooms in on his
colonoscopy.
face, through her butt. It's so good.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, rewatch it and look for the butt shot. It's great.
Oh, I'm totally rewatching the butt shot.
Yeah, it's really fun.
So he throws Carol off and is trying to like bring things down. Edwina cracks him with this candlestick, sends him tumbling down the stairs. She says, I hope you're dead.
Yeah.
And his leg bones are coming out when he hits the bottom of the stairs. Miss Martha, very talented woman of many talents. She knows she can't fix this, so they must amputate. So they knock him out with laudanum, which is a That's So Gothic mainstay. We had laudanum in Interview with the Vampire.
Yes, that's right.
So they knock him out, and they do this great scene that proves that no effects are better than bad effects.
Yes, it's like completely silent. It's like unsettling. Yeah,
it's so unsettling. And just you see her with the saw, and just like, it was really making me cringe, even though they show nothing.
What is the servant's name again? Hallie. She does have a great line where Miss Martha is like looking at the textbook, and she's like, I think if I cut here, it's not going to be so bad. And Hallie says something along the lines of, ain't no book gonna help you. Like, basically, if he starts bleeding, he starts bleeding.
Oh, that's great.
She's exactly the person I want in a medical room with me.
Oh yeah. She's wonderful. She no shit from her ever.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
So he wakes up and he doesn't have a leg. And he doesn't really remember anything. Like, he basically remembers waking up, being caught with Carol, and then waking up with no leg. So he thinks Martha has knocked him out and sawed off his leg out of jealousy, because she's jealous that he was with Carol. And so Amy sees this Union soldier camp, and she ends up reporting that to McBee. And she says, I thought you loved me. And so, she's really sad about this. But Carol comes to apologize to him, because he's realized she was the one who tied the ribbon around the gate. This is my favorite part of the whole movie. She says, I'm sure a one-legged man, or even a no-legged man, can enjoy himself the same as any other man.
I love where her head is at.
Oh my God. I know it's the only thing she can think of. She's tried to apologize, but she's like, I know you can still get it up, though. I know we're still good. So he's decided he needs to escape, because this Union camp, it may be getting closer. So he goes through this dresser, and he ends up taking a gun, and he also finds a locket and what turns out to be love letters from Miss Martha's brother to her. So he knows what's going on. And he gets confronted, I think, by Hallie. Oh no, he pulls out the gun. He confronts everyone. And he says, I'm the man of this house right now. I'm going to be with any young lady who desires my company. And he tells Hallie that he'll start with her. And she has this flashback to the brother attempting to assault her, which was really shocking. And she ends up managing to get away from him. But I found that really interesting that the movie includes that and doesn't even reckon with it at all. It's just kind of there. And so he ends up fleeing into the basement with some wine. And they're getting ready for dinner, and Carol, of course, is playing the victim. She says that he came onto her. She blames him for everything.
Mm-hmm.
He comes into the kitchen and he exposes Miss Martha's incest because he's got the letters and this locket. And poor Amy tries to calm him down, and he chucks her turtle across the room. And it's very sad, but the turtle looks so fake. It looks like a little like stress ball turtle or
Yeah,
something.
it kind of like
bounces
bounces off.
across
Yeah.
the tiles.
Oh,
But I
it's very
love
sad.
turtles, so that was really
I
sad.
know. I was gonna ask you that before this. Are you okay talking about that scene? Because I know that you have a new turtle in your
I
life.
know I have a new turtle in my life, and this was really sad. I know. If it
Yeah.
hadn't looked so fake, it would have been really
it would've
dramatic.
been
Well,
much
it did.
harder.
I'm like, guys, didn't you learn from the sawing scene? You don't have to show it. You could just show him
Yes.
throwing the turtle.
Yeah.
We don't need to see the like stuffed doll bounce across the floor. And poor Amy, she's like holding the bloody turtle, like cradling
Yeah.
it. And they're concocting this plan basically to get rid of him.
Mhm.
So Miss Martha instructs Amy, again, the youngest one here, to go out and pick poison mushrooms, which they
Yeah.
will cook to poison him and kill him.
Mhm.
So at dinner, he and Edwina announce that they're marrying because
Mhm.
he's told her he's going to marry her. They're going to run away at sunrise. They're going to GTFO before this Union soldier camp gets to them.
Mhm.
So they pass around the bowl of mushrooms, and he is eating them. And then Edwina eats one.
Yeah.
And Miss Martha goes, Edwina, no. And she spits it out. And then he starts to realize what's happened.
Yeah.
And then the camera cuts away, and there's just this crash.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the right before it too. All the girls are, it's like a scene of all of the girls are passing the mushrooms, and it's just going hand to hand and no one's taking any. I love that.
Yeah. Very good scene. Good dinnerware, but
Mhm.
nicely shot.
Yes.
This is something else the Sophia Coppola movie does stupidly, where they pass the mushrooms around, and
Yeah.
Kirsten Dunst, who plays the Edwina character, is getting ready to spoon some onto her plate. And someone says, Edwina, you don't like mushrooms. And she
Yeah.
goes, oh, that's right. And then just passes the dish along.
Yeah. It's like so unnecessary too, because I love the reaction of Miss Martha. Like, she could have let her eat the mushrooms, and just,
Yes.
but she couldn't hold it in. And I love the reaction of then him being just like dawning on him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it adds so much more to the character, because if you believe him, which
Mhm.
hopefully you don't by this point, but like
Yeah.
you would believe that Miss Martha is like deathly jealous of Edwina or whatever. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
she would have just let her eat it. But this proves that she
Yes.
still cares about her, even after all
Exactly.
this shit has gone on, which is really,
Right.
really nice for those characters.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we hear the crash. We know he's dead. They cut away. The poor crow has died. Because with all this shit going on, Amy forgot to untie it. Whoops. And so they end up tying his body in a shroud, and they carry him away, and we fade back to the sepia tone from the beginning, and we hear the drums of war, and that's the end.
That's the end.
So by the time I got to the end of the movie, I couldn't remember why the crow was there. So I Googled the Beguiled crow.
Mhm.
And I found this article that I was skimming, which is my fatal flaw. I always skim, and it always fucks me over. So this is what I read. In the movie Beguiled, starring Clint Eastwood and Geraldine Page, the crow, whose wing has been injured, is tied to the railing of a balcony, so he can't fly away until he is fully recovered. I love you, Mr. Crow, Amy says as she tries to comfort the struggling bird. But until your wings are mended, it's for your own good. The scene foreshadows the plight of Eastwood's character, McBee, as he recovers from his injury in the boarding school. When I think about birds now, I think about the horrific abuse birds, chickens, ducks, and others endure on egg-laying farms. Egg farms continually breed birds, so they have a fresh supply of hens to lay eggs. After 2 years of spending their lives in horribly cramped conditions inside huge warehouses, the hens stop laying enough eggs to cover the cost of their feed, and they're shipped to the slaughterhouse. This goes on for 2 more paragraphs,
Oh my
and then it says,
God.
"Peace for all the animals with whom we share the planet." Oh, it also says, "I simply cannot ethically eat their abused corpses." So I was like, wow, that escalated quickly.
I'm
And then
truly speechless.
I went back and read the part that I skimmed over. I will read again. In the movie The Beguiled, starring Clint Eastwood and Geraldine Page, I played Amy, a tender-hearted girl who loves and nurtures animals. So
Twist.
this article is written by the actress Pamela Ferdin on her blog, PamelaFerdin.com.
Oh my God.
She has posted this essay twice. Once in 2018 and once in 2021. The text is exactly the same, but the headlines are different.
Oh my God. What the?
I was just like, Pamelin, excuse me, Pamelin. So yeah, she's animal rights activist now.
Wow.
And she is also probably best known as the voice of Lucy from the Peanuts cartoons.
Oh, how cute.
And the voice of Fern in the original Charlotte's Web cartoon.
Oh, wow. Well, she's had quite the life.
I know. And yeah, I was just like, oh, I was like, wow, what a turn to go from this crow to like factory farming.
Literally, that was, I think, the greatest plot twist. I mean, more than any movie we've watched.
I know. What a reveal.
What a reveal.
I read it and I was like, what kook wrote this?
It was Amy. You know what's really funny about that is after I watched this movie, and then so one of my favorite moments of the movie is Amy says something along the lines of, like, she plays it coy after he dies. I think when they're sewing him up, she says something like, "How was I supposed to know they were poisonous?" It's so good. I don't know why I thought this. I don't have anything to back this really up with, except maybe now I do. Amy to me feels like the blueprint for Greta Thunberg.
Oh my God. And she kind of was animal rights activist here. You could see the plan going.
Like, I just thought, like, spunky blonde young girl with 2 braids.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Greta Thunberg, like, really into nature, but now she's also an animal activist.
Loves sticking it to men.
Yeah.
Who is that guy that like dragged Greta Thunberg on Twitter and then she owned him and then he got arrested?
Andrew Tate.
Yes, you mentioned him on the podcast before.
Oh, have I?
Yes, you have. I think that's why I looked him. That's how I knew who that was at the time. Yes.
I fucking hate him. Maybe there was mushrooms on his pizza.
On that pizza.
On that pizza, there was mushrooms. Anyways, Greta, if you have not watched The Beguiled yet, 1971.
You can learn from Amy.
You can learn from Amy.
Learn from Amy. All right, so we will take a short break and then we'll be back with our Gothic roundup and we'll decide, is it Gothic? All right, ghosties, we're back with our Gothic roundup. All Gothic films have 4 elements: a girl, a guy, a house, and a haunt. Our girl, Clint Eastwood himself, McBee.
I think he would be very happy about that being called a girl.
Oh my God, he'd shoot us. He is a good Gothic girly, though, getting drawn into this world that he does not anticipate. However, unlike most Gothic heroines, he is a horrible person.
He's a dickhead. Yeah.
He's terrible.
Yeah.
Like, he lies all the time. He's playing all of these women. In a way, playing the women I can forgive because he knows they're going to turn him over to the enemy.
Yeah.
And that's what's really interesting about this. He is a Union soldier. Like, he should be the protagonist of the film.
Right.
In a way, when you're looking back on the Civil War. But he's not. He's terrible.
He's a dickhead. He's such a dickhead. Yeah, I really like that aspect of it. Like you said, most gothic girlies, they're very naive, they kind of go into things with maybe more hopefulness, in a way
Mhm.
sometimes. And he's just like dickhead right off the bat, manipulative. What a jackass. So
Yes.
yeah, it's great gothic girly though, still.
It
Because it
is.
is. It's like he gets pulled into this, we'll talk about it with the house, but like into this like very southern, especially since he is a northerner, like this is a very southern
Mhm. It's a
atmosphere.
it's a foreign environment. It's
Yep.
practically a different country. He's
Mm-hmm.
very uncomfortable there. He's out of the women are kind of controlling him. He can't
Yep.
walk until they give him crutches, and
Yeah.
his movements are being controlled.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes our guy kind of all the women, even though,
Mm,
again, if this were a gothic film, Edwina would be like the perfect gothic girl,
right.
the virginal school teacher who's going to run away with this creep.
Yes.
Like if that had actually succeeded and there was a sequel, it would
Mm.
also be gothic.
Yeah.
But in this case, the guy is all the girls, but particularly Amy, because she's the
Yeah.
one who finds him and
Yeah.
brings him into this and ultimately kills him.
Yeah. Good for Amy.
Yeah, it's so interesting too, like, because yeah, she is the youngest, the one who doesn't understand the most about the situation,
Yeah.
but almost feels hurt the most by it all, perhaps
Yeah.
because of her naivete.
Mm-hmm.
And he killed her turtle, so he
Yeah.
must die.
Yeah. Fuck that guy.
Ugh. So we also have our house.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a real house, and as far as I can tell, still stands today.
Mm.
This is the Ashland Belle Helene Plantation. It was in a few movies that I've never heard of, and it was weirdly purchased by the Shell Oil Company in 1992.
Huh.
They remodeled the exterior and replaced the roof for preservation purposes, and they now use it to host private, corporate, and employee functions.
Hmm. I wonder if Clint Eastwood had anything to do with that. I could see him being a fan of big oil.
For sure. Yeah, if any oil barons are listening and want to invite us to a soiree at
Yes.
this plantation, we would love to come.
I will put aside all of my morals. That sounds amazing.
Yes. Yes, we're a hoop skirt, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Yes, do
Give
it
me
up.
shrimp cocktail in a southern
Yes.
plantation
And a
and I will
mint
forget
julep. Mm-hmm.
everything I care about.
Mm-hmm. 100%. Sell it out. It's a gorgeous house. But I guess it's also very interesting because the owners of the house had a racetrack and they raced horses. And at this racetrack, there was a slave named Abe Hawkins who rode in the race and he won.
Ooh.
So he ended up winning a couple of times and beating multiple white jockeys and ended up being inducted into the Louisiana Racing Museum Hall of Fame in 1997.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's
Because
lovely.
the Civil War ended, he was able to leave the plantation and race in different races across the country.
Wow.
I thought that was pretty cool
Yeah.
fact.
Huh.
But for the movie, the house is cool. I love the
Yeah.
house. The house is a great character.
Mm-hmm.
As they move through, you get a good idea of the geography of the house.
Yep.
And he's locked in this bedroom, and then they have the kitchen and the basement, and they have this cool, like, I don't know if you call it a widow's walk on top of the
Mm,
house where the girls
yeah.
are a lot. They're supposed to be keeping a lookout for the Confederate soldiers. Usually it's just Doris, and everyone ignores her when she's
Yeah.
like, they're coming by.
Poor Doris.
I this once the Beguiled is in public domain, I'm gonna write Doris's side of the story.
That's honestly a great idea.
Loved Doris. And then last but not least, we have our haunt.
Mm-hmm.
Our haunt might be women, at least if you asked the director of this movie.
Oh.
So he says that the film deals with themes of sex, violence, and vengeance, and was based around, quote, the basic desire of women to castrate men.
Okay. Sure.
He just sounds like the guy who just could never get over his divorce. Like
Yes.
like Steven Spielberg and George Lucas in the 80s. Like these guys could just you never thought they would never get over this divorce.
Exactly. They are the guy that is the guy who marries a woman and makes, deprecating jokes and is just like, "Oh, old ball and chain." Like,
Still battle acts.
yeah, yeah.
Doesn't
Oh,
understand why she divorces him.
yeah, right. That's painful.
Yes. Yeah. I found that interesting because like again, I could see again and the fact that it's directed by the man, like I guess I see that, but I don't know if it's just me. But I watch the movie as like I'm kind of rooting for the women in this. I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
see it as like a horror movie where the like Misery, where the
Yes.
women are imprisoning the man and like
Right.
torturing him.
Yes. Yeah, and because that's another thing I don't like about the Sophia Coppola one is it feels a little bit more ambiguous. Like it's a little bit like the romance between McBee and Edwina is a little bit more. It's played off as being more like genuine,
Mm,
um, and not just McBee sort of using her. And
mhm.
I don't know if that was supposed to be like a feminist take on it, but I didn't like it because to
Yeah.
me, I think it's better to portray McBee as the manipulative person that he is.
Yes.
Um, so I wouldn't, I mean, I guess you could say women are the haunt, women trying not to be manipulated. God
I know.
forbid.
I just think it's so funny that that's what the director of the movie
Yeah.
said, and like that didn't come across at all.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He missed his own mark on that one.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, that's something again. This not to rag on Sofia Coppola, but yeah, I think ambiguity in movies great, but I feel like she
Yes.
is so ambiguous that it means nothing. It
Yeah.
goes too far
Yeah.
where when it can mean everything, it means nothing. You
Hmm.
need some sort of constraint here,
Yeah.
and that's what I liked about this movie. It's complicated. Again, you've got
Yeah.
McBee, the Union soldier, who
Hmm.
like would want to see escape from this situation, even though the methods he's using to try to do that are gross.
Hmm.
And you've got the women, they all have their own goals in mind. I feel like you can root for all of them in some
Yeah.
sort of way. I want Carol to get some dick. I want I want Edwina to get married.
Yeah.
I guess I want Miss Martha to, be able to be reunited with her dead brother.
Sure.
Sure, if that does it for her, great. Who am I to
Yes.
judge? But so yeah, that's what I liked about this movie. They're all very complicated and
Yeah.
nuanced in a way that I was not expecting.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think it's hard to pinpoint a haunt on it because, it's one of those things, this is kind of where having the four categories, like sometimes it doesn't always fit, but it doesn't mean
Yeah,
that it's missing something. It's
right.
just this doesn't particularly have something that's like this overarching haunting theme, except for like maybe the Civil War, but that's a whole
Right.
nother topic. And I don't know shit about that.
Yeah, it kind of fits into the Southern Gothic
Yeah.
kick we've been on,
Hmm.
where they do deal with a lot of echoes from the Civil War and
Yeah.
slavery. And so we are exploring that here as well. But yeah,
Mm.
like you said, it doesn't need anything supernatural
Mm.
in my case, I think, to even be Gothic. It helps.
Yeah.
But before we decide if it's Gothic, we do have to emphasize the bonus Gothic, which is
Yes.
incest. We haven't
Yep.
had an incest bonus in a while.
Yeah.
Is there a piano in this movie? I don't think so.
I think there's a harpsichord.
Okay, yeah, because Carol
Yeah.
likes to play the harp. They're
Yeah.
missing out. There should be a piano in this
There should be a
movie. I feel like
piano.
a girls' school should have a piano.
This doesn't have to be indicted into bonus gothics, but there is a really creepy painting in this movie of her brother. So
That's true. Creepy
yeah.
painting of the incestuous brother.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
like
That's
bonus
good. We'll
with a
do a bullet
star.
point. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, bonus with a bullet. I love
Yeah.
that.
It's very
So
creepy.
yeah, that helps it a bit, I think.
Hmm. Hmm.
So what do you think? Is this movie Gothic?
I would say it's Southern Gothic, you know?
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. I think it's so strong with the
Hmm.
other bits of it, and it's one of the we we take liberties sometimes
Mhm.
here, Elvis. Um, but this movie is very frequently described as gothic when I'm
Yes.
doing my research about it, which I find interesting that they just flat out describe it as gothic, because I
Right.
feel like you almost have to dig a little bit. On the surface, you're seeing this movie with Clint Eastwood, Civil War. You're not
Yeah.
thinking gothic, and then you get
Right.
into it and like, oh yeah, it is entirely set in this house.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think Miss Martha leaves at one point, but we don't really go with her. We don't
No.
get to town. And yeah, it has that I think claustrophobia is
Mm,
helpful with the gothic feeling.
right. And we didn't really talk about, it's based off of a book.
Mhm.
Usually when I watch a movie and it's based off like with Beautiful Creatures, like if I watch a movie and I haven't read the book, I very rarely at the end of that movie think I want to read that book, because in my mind I'm like, I kind of have what I need now. I'm a terrible librarian, I know. But this one made me want to read the book after, because I think that the atmosphere would translate really well to a book. Like I really, really want to read this.
I'm so curious. I want to read this as well, and I don't
Yeah.
read anything that doesn't have pictures in it. So I'll just print out some pictures of Carol and put them at random throughout the book to help keep me going.
Such a good idea.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Well, anything else you want to add about The Beguiled?
No, I think that's a wrap for me.
That's a wrap for us. It's a wrap for the Civil War. We won. No matter what they try to teach you, if you are south of the Mason-Dixon line, the North won. So thank you, Ghosties, for listening to us break down The Beguiled. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Rate and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We would really appreciate it. Drop us an email at sogothicpod@gmail.com and follow us on Instagram. Sometimes we drop hints about what we'll discuss next when we're done posting pictures of Alden Ehrenreich. So stay ghosty, everybody. Stay ghosty, y'all. Boo bye.
Bye.